into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and for my guests, today is just another Thursday. But for me, this is like one of the coolest days of my life. That's because my guests today are not only Top Chef alums from my favorite TV show, they are celebrity chefs with hundreds of thousands of followers. They have cooked in some of the best kitchens in America, and they host my favorite podcast, The Chef's Cut, where they kind of take people inside the restaurant industry and help them understand the conversations that are happening inside the restaurant industry and what's going on inside kitchens. Without further ado, my guests today, Adrienne, Cheatham, and Joe Flamm. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dan. Thank you for having us here.
Super pumped to be here.
This is seriously such a just mind-bending moment to me. Like, I can't even believe I'm talking to you guys. But I have a question that I need to start with that has been it's been eating at me for a long time. I've listened to every episode of the podcast, and I need to know, Joe, what was the more painful moment for you? Was it eating and judging 15 dishes that Top Chef contestants cooked with hops, or was it burning yourself so badly that letters from one of your tattoos actually came off your body? Which experience was worse?
Eating the 15 hop dishes. Burns heel. The burns heel, man.
Yeah.
But,
when they introduced that challenge, I was just like, this sounds terrible.
I literally, my stomach was wrecked. Like, we were in judges table the next day, and I was just pounding Pepto-Bismol. I was like, I need to like survive this judges table. It was bad.
Whoever came up with that challenge is like diabolical on another level.
Oh, I must have wronged them some way. They were like, we're going to bring Flamm in for this one. Like, it was like eating like dry weed because you just got pulled over by the cops and you're like, we got to get rid of this now.
And I can only imagine for you, like, you get invited to come back on the show because you were on season 15. This was like season 22 or 23. And you get invited back on the show and it's like, sweet, I get to be a guest judge on Top Chef. And they're like, oh yeah, here's the challenge that you're going to be judging. And you're just like, seriously? This is the one?
Well, it's like, I felt like it's, like a running joke with them. It's like the first one I came back and did for Houston, it was a dinosaur challenge, and I had to dress a paleontologist from Jurassic Park. And I was like, do you guys just invite me back to mess with me? Like, what is happening here? Like, it's but as Adrienne knows, like, that is the Top Chef way. You know what I mean? Like, everything is like, are you guys just like messing with us right now to mess with us just for fun?
100%. That's what they do. They mess with you from the time you're on the show until you're off the show and you come back. If you ever come back, even if you don't come back, they're messing with you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
From afar.
So I became aware of you guys. Like I mentioned, you were both on Top Chef season 15. You both made it to the end, to the finale. Joe ended up winning, but I do want to point out Adrienne is the only one on this call who has not heard Pack Your Knives and Go. So she does have that going for her.
Yes, Dan. Yes.
But obviously you have so much more on your resumes than just Top Chef. Adrienne, you've worked in some incredible kitchens, Le Bernardin, Red Rooster. Now you're a very successful private chef. Joe, you've got 4 restaurants throughout Chicago. And I think that this opens the door for a really interesting conversation because I think the term chef has evolved so much, especially over the past 15, 20 years. You've got celebrity chefs, you've got internet chefs, you've got traditional chefs, you got private chefs, you got hotel chefs, all these different types of chefs. I just want to open it up to you guys. When you think of the term chef today, what does that mean to you?
I want to hear what Joe has to say about this, but if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, it would have been only a chef of a restaurant. A private chef, yes, maybe, but the word chef means boss. So if you're the boss of your shit, you're a chef. You may have a staff of 1, you may have a staff of 0. If you're the boss running whatever program or operation you're in, totally different. And now there are people on the internet that cook and do recipes and are incredibly successful that hold the title or are called chefs. There's no other word for people who are food professionals other than chef. It's like, what are you, a cooker? Like, it's that it's not a thing. So chef is like the only word that we have in our vocabulary to use for people who make food. But if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I probably would have just said a restaurant chef. But now it's expanded so much. So it's very different now.
Yeah, I think it's a weird one because I think that's like the thing. There is only one word, right? And it's supposed to be all encompassing. And I think definitely if you would ask Adrienne or either one of us 10 years ago and you said, "Oh, this person's a chef," it would be like if they weren't running a restaurant, it'd be like, "Okay, you're not
You're not a chef.
not." But I think now also it's like there's too much emphasis on that word of like the weight it carries. It's not like a legal thing. You know what I mean? I didn't take an MCAT and now I'm a chef. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh, I'm licensed to chef in Illinois, but I can't go to Iowa. Like it's just, it's an arbitrary title that, we've invented. And it's like, there's just different kinds is the thing. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think some people get too caught up in the title of it. And I think, it's the wrong frame. Just calling yourself a chef doesn't make you a chef or doesn't not. It doesn't matter because again, there's no standing of it. I'm not part of some, league of extraordinary chefs somewhere where it's like I have a card that I can show. But I think the idea that like also just because you're a chef doesn't mean people are going to follow you. You know what I mean? Like title is only title. Like, leadership is leadership. You could be a sous chef, you could be a line cook, you could be anything. And people are going to respect and follow you by the way you carry yourself, by the way you cook, by the way you act in a kitchen, by the way you do things. So it's like there's too much emphasis on the title, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Where it's like, because it is so overstretching where it's like, oh, what is a chef? And it's like, I don't know, it seems to be whatever the hell people want it to be at this point.
Right.
You know what
It's
I mean?
like,
You
I
can make
create
food on
recipes,
Instagram
I'm a
and you're
chef.
like, I'm a chef. It's like, sure. You know what I mean? You might not be a restaurant chef or you might not be a private chef, but it's like, in my mind, I think in the oldest version of it is a chef is somebody who, you're running a crew. But, now it's expanded so wildly. But I think it's one of those ones where it's like, I'm not going to battle it out with anyone in the comments about that one. I have no interest in it. Sure, you want to call yourself chef, you want to call yourself, you know what I mean, president of whatever, go crazy. Go nuts. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt me any being a chef if you want to call yourself a chef too. Go crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. It doesn't take away from restaurant chefs for people on the internet to call themselves chefs. Like it's totally fine. But I do wish that we had more words in our vocabulary to describe different things because the industry has expanded so much since, the past 20 years. Like before there was only like hotels, restaurants, like there were very few outlets. Now there's just so many more ways that you can work in the food industry and we just don't have enough words to describe it.
Well, and I thought one of the best descriptors I've heard in a while was actually when Adrienne and I talked to Gail Simmons, and she was talking about how chefs, when they come to Top Chef, are a lot of case, like lowercase c chefs.
Yeah, little c and big C.
And I was like, just from a point of like where you are in your career, I thought that was brilliant because the idea of like, when I went on Top Chef, I was a chef de cuisine. You know what I mean? I wasn't chef of my own restaurant. And it's literally on the menu, that's a lowercase c chef. You know what I mean? It would be chef de cucina on the Spiaggia menus, and it's a lowercase c chef. And it was just such a brilliant delineation. And there's no, derogatoriness towards it whatsoever. But it was just, I thought it was a brilliant way of kind of, measuring that time and place of like our careers at that point in age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish there were another way. I like that. Like, we were, as a sous chef, you're a little c. And then when you get to executive chef, then you're a big C chef.
And you get a big C.
Yeah, capital C.
You guys have a thriving podcast. I think you need to come up with the answer, and then you can spread it to everyone. So now you have some homework coming out of this, I'd say.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome. I want to get into you guys' relationship because it's so interesting. Like, you didn't know each other before Top Chef. Again, this was season 15. That was over 10 years ago now. You don't live in the same city. I don't know how often you guys see each other, throughout the year or anything like that. And yet you've remained such good friends. Like, if anyone listens to 2 minutes of the podcast, they can tell that you have incredible chemistry. What is it, do you think, about you two that has allowed you to create such a strong bond?
Well, we are from the same place.
Yes, you're both from Chicago.
Yes,
I should have mentioned
and
that.
specifically, we're both from the south side of Chicago.
an important distinction.
Yes. So when you
It
have
really
somebody
is.
with the same kind of upbringing and value system, like we didn't even know that we were both from the same part of Chicago until after the first challenge. I was on the bottom. Joe gave me a little pep talk when we're walking off camera. And, we connected because nobody knows each other there. You get there and you're like, I'm embarrassing myself. Like, you feel like shit. You feel horrible. You're like, I was on the bottom in the first challenge. I almost went home on the first challenge, something nobody wants to do. And then, somebody comes up to you afterwards and you're all kind of like sizing each other up. They didn't give us intros before. So afterwards, you're like, man, like, I feel really bad about this. And somebody gives you like a little pep talk and boosts you up and says, you know what? Like, we all just got punched in the face. It's okay. Like, don't worry about it. So I was like, man, that's what I feel like I wanted to have said to somebody if I weren't on the bottom, but I was so busy being in my feelings. So I was, we connected early on, literally on the first episode of the show. And we were kind of like a touch point for each other throughout the whole season.
Yeah, and I think Adrienne and I, although we're in different cities, we worked at different places, our careers are, in different, kind of different paths of the same thing right now. We have a lot of similarities in just like how we work. Like we're both just grinders. You know what I mean? We're both just like, we're just going to outwork them and just like go for it. And that's, going to be our superpowers, just resiliency. Right. And, we just went through going all the way to the end with each other means like we spent a ton of time with each other, like 18 hours a day for 2 months, basically. And it's kind of a weird thing when you're in that Top Chef thing, because it's either like you make kind of a conscious or not conscious decision of like, either I'm going to be friends with these people and like connect with them, or I'm just going to be friends with no one. And I'm going to try to lone wolf this. Right. And I don't, you know what I mean? I'm way too Midwest to pretend for a second like I'm a lone wolf thing. I make friends on the bus. And, like Adrienne's the same way. We're both like very like, we like being part of a team. We like the social aspect of kitchens. And so like it was really easy for us to connect. And then once we made the Chicago connection, it was like, oh, okay, like we knew some of the same people. And you know what I mean? Like I probably see, Adrienne still has family here. So Adrienne comes to Chicago a lot, to see her family. So I see her basically every time she's in town. I end up going to New York a good bit for work. So I see Adrienne almost every time I'm in town there. So it's like one of those weird things, although we don't live in the same city. And it's like, you know how it is. Like as you get older, it's like you see less and less of your friends. If you have kids, everyone's careers evolve. So it's like, location matters kind of a little bit less besides of the people who live like right in your neighborhood. So it's like, I probably see Age 20 times a year.
Yeah.
Which is a ton for an adult friendship of someone who doesn't live within blocks of you.
I don't even see my friends in New York that much.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean?
Like that's more than I see any of my friends.
Right. So, and we would just talk a lot. Like we've always loved like talking about restaurants, just like and that's kind of how the podcast started, is like, because Adrienne would call me about something and be like, hey, whatever, I'm coming to town. Me and Jackie are going to come in for dinner. And then an hour and a half later, I'd be like, yeah, I saw that shit. And I think, that person's wrong. You know what I mean? We'd still be on the phone, like, just, whatever, like gossiping, basically.
Yes.
About, what I mean, chefs and restaurants and industry and whatever. And, so it just kind of fit, you know what I mean? We just became really close friends. And I just think, Adrienne's a person who, as a competitor, I have a ton of respect for her just drive and her integrity. And I think it was mutual. So I think it was like
definitely mutual. It wasn't one-sided.
That's what it was built on. And so like I feel like, on the pod and stuff, it seems so natural just because it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So take me inside the podcast. First episode of The Chef's Cut was released on June 14th, 2025. So you guys are coming up on the 1-year anniversary. We were talking about this a little bit off the mics, but whose idea was it? Like, how did this thing come out of the ether and become a podcast?
Well, it actually started with my husband. So like Joe said, whenever I come to Chicago, I come to one of his many restaurants, and we would wind up hanging out, kitchen's closed, guests are leaving, and we're all just sitting there talking. And Joe and his wife, like, I would hang out with them. They came to events when I did pop-ups in Chicago. So we would all sit and talk and hang out. And so my husband was interested in starting a podcast company. And he was like, what if we get the structure down first with you doing a podcast? Because, like, we don't know anybody else. So he was like, who would you want to do a podcast with? And I was thinking in person. So I was thinking of a couple people in New York. I was like, I don't really know. Like, I don't know who. And he was like, he literally, after we got off the phone, I was like, I'll think about it for a few minutes and then I'll text you some names. He called me back within 5 minutes and he was like, what about Joe? I was like, well, Joe lives in Chicago, but yeah, that would obviously be my first choice. He was like, you guys have the best conversations. You've been legit friends. Like, we never spend less than 2 hours talking when we hang out with Joe. Like, I think it should be Joe. I was like, I think you're right. So we didn't even talk about anybody else after he said that.
Yeah, so Age called me and she was like, hey, this is what we're thinking, blah, 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 and kind of pitched me on it. And I was like, yeah, obviously I can't come to New York once a week. That doesn't work. I was like, but if we can set this up where it's just like, we can make it seamless and figure it out. And, Adrienne was like, one of the great things, many great things about Adrienne is she's super organized, right? So she's super like, I'll get it sorted out. And, her husband, Steven's next level with that too. And like, she's like, I'll set it up. We'll figure out everything we need. We'll figure this out. We'll do it.
Joe just starts to get equipment deliveries at his house.
Right. And it was kind of like one of those things where I think my only thing with it, when I talked to Age about it, I was like, I'm in, but I wanted to have that kind of like inside baseball component. Like, I want to be able to get into the really chefy stuff that maybe is not going to be overreaching for all audiences, but it'll be those kind of cool things that like regular people don't know, where it's like we can talk in the lingo we talk. We can, deep dive into the little things that like all kitchen and industry people understand and just give a glimpse into, what we do. And, Age was like, yeah, that's exactly what, we're trying to do here. And so we were like, all right, let's give it a shot. We'll give it a roll. And like, we kind of agreed like, hey, we'll do it for a year and see what happens and see if it picks up any traction or steam.
Well, it's definitely picked up traction and steam, and you guys better keep going after a year because now you've got me hooked. And if I lose this podcast, I'm going to be very, very sad. So keep the good stuff coming. One of the things that I love about the show is, it really does include both crowds. Like, I'm not someone in the restaurant industry, but I can definitely understand how someone like who would love this show and would get all the inside baseball stuff. But you're also appealing to people who are outside of it and exposing me to knowledge that I didn't have before. But what I really like about the show is obviously you guys are great personalities. You're great friends. You have wonderful conversation. A lot of times you keep it light. You tell good stories and everything. But you're not afraid to get into kind of the tough stuff. Like when all the Noma stuff dropped, you got into that. Just this past week, we're recording after you guys had the episode about Cisco and Restaurant Depot. That was really serious. You've had some serious conversations about Michelin and exactly what that means in America. As you guys have developed this, have you kind of recognized how important it is for you to to be like the voice of the restaurant industry, which is usually something that doesn't have a microphone in its face? You guys are kind of the ones who are able to share these really important topics and this knowledge for a base that normally doesn't get to share that stuff.
I never thought about it like that going in. We just kind of wanted to talk about things that we talk about. But as much as Joe and I kind of have the inside baseball conversation, I definitely did want to be able to translate it, because how many of us in restaurants are always talking about we're like, man, people just don't get it. Like our families, like they just don't get it. They don't understand why we kill ourselves or why we are so passionate when morels come in season or when spring peas are here. It's like some people don't get it. So as I wanted to be able to have that inside baseball conversation, but also for Joe and I to be able to explain it to a broader audience, because there are so many people who are interested in food and interested in the people behind the food. So being able to kind of be a bridge between our industry and the people who care about us, and they genuinely care about what we do and they're passionate about it too, but they just don't understand it because they don't live it. So we want to kind of like have that inside baseball aspect, but be able to translate it a little bit, for a broader audience.
Yeah, I think it's, answering the questions we get asked every time we go to a party, right? Is like part of it. And I think like that's, some of those things, it's not even like being a voice, but it's just continuing the conversation where it's like, the Noma stuff or like, Cisco. It's like sometimes it's, I feel like when we have our weekly call, it's like, oh, this is something we've been wanting to talk about. And then sometimes like stuff like that, it's like, this is what we need to talk about because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it in kitchens right now, but it's not being talked about, on the street right now. And it's like trying to take those conversations that are happening, on the line or, around a table at a manager meeting or, behind the scenes at an event and just bring those to the forefront, I think was a really important part of that for Adrienne and I. And like bringing some perspective of not like, oh, hey, this is some writer who works for some publication who's, 20 steps removed from this of like, well, how is this actually affecting people who like this is their day in and day out? And so I think for us of being able to have that perspective and being like, like when you see a story as big as Noma in the news, where it's like, that's not just restaurant news anymore, right? It's everywhere. It's a New York Times. It's everything. And, the Cisco Restaurant Depot, kind of the same thing. So I think it's like, for us, I think it's like important to try to say like, well, this is the conversations that are happening about it within the walls of restaurants, within the walls of events, within, the farmers markets of New York and Chicago that are being had, and kind of keep those conversations going.
Well, I think that's the fascinating thing about a podcast specifically is you kind of have like an idea of what you think it might be when you start it, and then it evolves over time and you realize, oh, we're not, yes, we can tell fun stories, and we can do review, we can have all these fun little segments and everything, but we're also going to have the opportunity to really be the voice for the restaurant industry in some respects. How do you guys feel like the podcast has most evolved over the past almost year now?
I think we've gotten better at talking, because it's one thing to talk to your friend on the phone or in person or hanging out at the bar having a beer. We've definitely gotten better at talking in general, which is something, if I'm listening to some of our early episodes versus some of our more recent ones, like I think like Joe keeps getting better with his comments and being able to bring in a different perspective all the time. We're getting better with focusing the conversation and getting more comfortable talking about some of the things, because there is like Gail said, when they were doing Top Chef with her and Tom, they looked at each other and she's like, I know why I'm here, because my boss told me, but why are you here? And she said they weren't afraid that the show wouldn't be successful. They were afraid that people in their industry would look at them like, oh, this is, it's that kind of like gaze of peer pressure. That's what a lot of people are afraid of when you put yourself out there in our industry, whether it be a cooking competition show or a podcast. You're like, how will people perceive this? And I think that we've just gotten more comfortable talking about, like, if somebody brings something up at an event that I'm at, normally it's like, ooh, but what if we ruffle some feathers? Or what if we make somebody mad? Or what if we talk about this chef and somebody hears it and they don't like that? It's like we've just gotten more comfortable, I think, with ourselves, with each other, and with having these conversations.
Yeah, and I think it's just, it's evolved in a way where, like Adrienne said, when we started it, it was like, okay, everybody like, oh, two, chefs who are on TV with microphones, right? And then it was like you started to go to events and I'd see other chefs who I consider serious chefs, and they'd be like, oh, love the pot. It's like, oh, like you listen
Really?
to it.
Really?
You know what I mean? Like it was like surprising to me, and I thought that was really cool. And like people like call me about it after an episode or something, and I'm like, this is awesome. But I think like Adrienne nailed it. It's like we become more, you know, I guess like less worried about like what people are going to think and more just trying to be like, well, this is the conversation we're having and we're going to have it. And if it's, you know what I mean? Like there's always going to be some people who don't like it, and that's okay too. Like it's a conversation, but like if it builds the conversation, that's all right. You know what I mean? I don't think like we're not like going after anybody. We're not trying to get anybody in like gotcha moments or anything like that. We're not trying to be salacious to be salacious. It's just like, we're just, you know what I mean? Like talking about shit the way we talk about shit.
Right.
And I think like we've just gotten way more comfortable with that.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you who your favorite guest has been because that's an unfair question. But who is maybe the guest that you've learned the most from?
Ooh. Ooh, that's tough.
And you guys have had some heavy hitters.
We have. We've had some really good ones. And it's interesting, like ones I think were good in really, you know, different ways and different reasons. Like, you know, I mean, Gail's fantastic just because Gail's fantastic. And you can just listen to her talk all day. You know what I mean? She's just so good. I thought, you know, Sam Cass was a wildly interesting one just because it was such a different frame of us hopping in, right? Where it wasn't, you know what I mean, just a restaurant chef. It wasn't, you know, it was somebody who had worked in such a different forum, having worked in the White House, right? In the Obama administration. And like, but that he had a background still and like being a cook and had stories about being a line cook all the way to, you know what I mean, like cooking on the White House lawn. It was just like a wild, you know, spread. I thought that was really, really a cool one. And, you know, like, I think like Drew Nieporent. Like,
Drew Nieporent, yeah.
Like that was a really good one because again, it was like not our typical chef. It was somebody who had been in restaurants since the 70s, talking about working on cruise boats in the 70s, like traveling with a fax machine.
I mean, taking every call himself to book tables and be able to make the reservation sheet. Like, I mean, the stories that Drew had are incredible. It's just, it's insane the amount of stories and really interesting things that he's done in his career. And I think Lagaya Michon was another one because she's just so thoughtful. She's the food critic or food critic of the New York Times. Like she just thinks about things in a different way. So yes, she's an expert in food, but she comes from a different lens. So that was really cool.
And that one was one where I couldn't believe she agreed to it. You know what I mean? Because it was like, we're going to get like one of the biggest food critics in the United States to sit down with a couple of chefs locked in a room. It's like, no way. And so
especially after a negative review had just come out about a big name chef and restaurant. It's like, she said yes, though.
And I'll be honest, I sent her a note afterwards and I told her, you know, thank you, that how just impressed I was with her because it's like, she didn't duck us either. Like that one, like she doesn't dodge any questions. Like she goes at it. And like in me and Adrienne go right back, like, and she stood in there and it's like when she said stuff we didn't agree with and we let her know, like she stood in there and took the punches. And I was massively impressed with her. Yeah. And I was just like, I walked away with that for like a whole new level. I was like, I tipped my hat to her on that one. But I thought that was one of the coolest ones where I was like, there's no way anyone involved in this is going to let us do this. And that she's going to actually like really sit there, like really answer questions and like really say what she means. And she did. And so that's probably up there one of my favorite ones as well.
That was one of my favorite episodes too, because I'm more on that food media side of things. I mean, I'm not a restaurant critic by any means, but I write restaurant reviews. I've got a website where I've, take a bunch of pictures and talk about Omaha restaurants, where you should go and everything. And to kind of hear you guys have that back and forth, and again, not in a I'm making it look like you were battling. You weren't battling. It was a really good conversation, and honestly, she changed the way that I think about restaurants. Now when I go in, I don't just say, oh, is this food good? Is this food bad? How does this atmosphere make me feel? But it's like, what was the goal of this restaurant? And did they achieve it? And I think that is such a cool way and a more healthy way to frame how you think about a dining experience. Okay. Padma Lakshmi, Tom Colicchio. You can only have one on the podcast. Who are you choosing and why?
Ooh. Jeez,
I know my answer. You want me to go first?
Go.
Yeah.
Tom.
I knew
and
it.
It's not. That's no shade to Padma, but I think like Padma's such a public figure that it's like her life is just so out there, right? Like there's so much media with her. Like she is, such a social media person. Like there's so much about, and she's also like been famous like forever. So I feel like there's so much of her story has been told. Where it's like Tom, for a dude who is super famous, right? You know what I mean? He's a monster name. He's got to be top 5 most famous chefs, right? You know what I mean? For household names, I would think, in this country. Like, he's not like a super active, like, social media guy or any of those things. And it's like...
It's pretty unknown.
When you get... And I've been, and Adrienne and I both have been fortunate enough to spend time with him. Like, when I first opened Rosemary, he came in, and at the end of his meal, I just sat with him, and we talked for probably an hour and a half. And we just talked about, the opening of the restaurants, and he just like, and asked him questions and asked him for advice and different things. And like, he's it's like talking about what's a chef, like he's a chef's chef. Like he still like loves restaurants, still really, really cares about like what they're putting out, what they're doing, like is really, really into it. So it's like, he's a person where it's like, he just has so much knowledge about, what Age and I do for a living in our industry and all of that, that I feel like that he isn't even remotely tapped. Like his cookbooks are so good. Like you go back to the old school, what was the original one? Was it the Craft Cookbook, Age? Is that his first one?
Oh, could have been.
I can't remember. It's on my shelf.
Did you have one at Gramercy though?
No, it's on my shelf somewhere behind me. The Gramercy one came out after he left, because that one's also here. But like, it's like there's so much technique in there that it's like, as a young cook, like, you know what I mean? It's such like so important that I just think there's just so much to him where it's like, I always feel like every time I really get time to talk to him, I really like take something away from it.
Yeah, Tom is like the definition of like still waters run deep. Like the man there's so much depth, there's so much knowledge. He's such a great person to talk with. And we just did an event. I did a lunch with CBS and Top Chef, and I did a course at a lunch at Kraft. And, Tom was there running the kitchen. Joe had to leave to get to the airport. So by the time Tom got there, Joe had already left.
That probably wasn't CBS Chef. It was probably NBC.
Oh, sorry, it was Bravo. NBC Universal. Thank you, Chef. Yeah, that's Padma show. So Tom was like, we're hanging out in the kitchen the whole time. And the things he said, it's just like, man, he is total chef Tom. Like that is who he is. He's a restaurant person. That is what he lives and breathes and who he is. And I don't like to limit myself, Dan, so I don't like having to choose either or.
I'm sorry. I did this to you.
You did. You totally did. But I would actually say, if we only could have one, I would like to have Padma on, because Padma is so public and so widely known, like Joe said, but every time you talk to her, you learn something about her or a dimension to her character that does kind of go against what you thought you knew. So she is, she's definitely the Padma that you see on television and on social media, but there is a lot more to her that those things don't capture. So for that reason, she knows food.
I'd be happy with either one of them as a guest.
Yeah, exactly.
For the record, I'd be thrilled. If either one of them are listening and they want to come on the pod, hit the line.
If you think either one of them is listening to this, you are flattering me far too much. Maybe Padma loves Omaha restaurants and she just has the secret.
Who doesn't?
Padma's a huge Hoppen guy. Everybody knows it.
Right.
That's the clip that we're clipping out of this episode, and we're going to run with it. You guys had an episode where you talked a lot about Padma's new show, America's Culinary Cup, before the season kicked off, and kind of what that might look like, and just kind of you gave your thoughts and your opinions on it. I know that you're both very busy people, so I don't know if you've been able to keep up with it, but I would love to, now that we're, oh gosh, I think the semifinal, or we're getting close to the end of the season here. Have you guys gotten a chance to watch the show? And if so, what do you think about it?
I'm
So
waiting for it to binge.
Okay, so you're waiting to the end. Fair enough.
I can't do one and then leave me at a cliffhanger for the. I can't. That's not no.
So
I need
we
to
just
be able to watch them all.
we just talked about this yesterday. We're like, all right, when the season finishes up, we're gonna full binge it, and do like a full recap on the pod. I've only seen one episode because I had a couple friends in Chicago who were on it, Beverly Kim and Deanna Diovala. And so I went and watched an episode with them, which was really fun because like we were at one of their restaurants and they had this big party, and just like, like seeing your friends on TV is always fun. You know what I mean? Like, or just every time their face came up, it was like, oh, so I couldn't hear anything that was going on and I couldn't really follow it, but it was a great time. But once we watch it, we will have a full recap for you.
Yeah, I got home just in time. I had missed the new episode was on last night, and it was maybe 15 minutes into it. But I was like, oh, but tonight Joe is also on the Food Network, so I watched my dear friend Joe Flamm on Flavortown. Go, Joe.
No spoilers. I haven't gotten a chance to watch that one yet because
okay.
It came out 2 days before we're recording this, and
it came out. Yeah, it came out last night. The funny thing is, I forgot because I had we had baseball last night, and I had to help coach Lucas' team. So it was like, I got home from baseball and put the kids to bed, and then I got a text from somebody, and I was like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I wasn't going to text you. I've seen you on TV before. But it was really exciting. But I did watch it until the end because I was like, I saw a post this week that said Joe's episode was coming on soon. And so I was scrolling through like the guide, and I was like, okay, if this is Joe, I'm not going to watch America's Culinary Cup. And it was Joe, so I watched him on TV yesterday.
All right, so no spoilers for you, Hoppen. I won't tell you what happened.
No spoilers.
But we'll talk about it after Joe because I got some questions.
I mean, I already have no doubt you won. You took home all the money. You cleaned them out.
You so sure?
We'll see.
Yeah, but I've been on a cold streak lately.
I don't know.
I think you got robbed on Tournament of Champions. I'm just going to throw that out there. And I love Dan Jacobs. He's a wonderful human, and his food looks amazing. That's one man's opinion. I did want to ask you guys about culinary competitions, though, because I feel like you guys have been very selective in what you've done since Top Chef. Like, Joe, you did Tournament of Champions, and you just did Flavortown Food Fight. And Adrienne, you've been on Beat Bobby Flay a couple times, but there are so many people who, especially over the last couple years, I've noticed, who graduate from Top Chef, and they jump in, and you see them all over Food Network, whether that's Tiffany Faison or Karen Akunowitz or Antonio LaFaso, Joe Sasso. I mean, basically, if you turn on a Food Network cooking competition show, you're seeing probably 2 or 3 Top Chef people competing.
Yeah.
That hasn't been what you guys have done. You've been very selective in what you've decided to do. Why is that? Why have you kind of taken that route?
For me, it's actually kind of humorous. The reason that I'm not doing it is because I can't. I don't have time. Because if you're a chef of a restaurant, doing television is a great way to bring attention. It's advertising for your restaurant. And all the chefs on TV are all good chefs. So you don't, when you're doing your first cooking competition, you're afraid you're going to look bad and people are going to think you're a bad cook. But once you realize that stigma is off, to be here, you have to be a good cook. I got approached by a ton of shows after Top Chef, and some of them I really, really wanted to do. I wanted to do Tournament of Champions every year. I want to do a lot of these things. But as a private chef, I don't control my schedule all the time. I also consult on kitchen design. So if I have a kitchen design project in the south of France and I have to be gone for 2-3 months, I can't say yes to this TV show and just come back for a week to do it because I don't set my schedule the same way as if you're the chef of a restaurant. And I'm also not driving butts in seats. So as much as I want to, it's not like, for me, I'm taking time away from things I'm getting paid for to do these, as opposed to this being an avenue to help drive revenue to my restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of been like, after Top Chef, you know, I obviously was opening the restaurants, but I just kind of take them as they come. And like sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? Like where it's like I did, I recorded Beat Bobby Flay 2 years ago and that came out like a month ago. But
Oh,
like,
really?
and that was the first, I think that was like, I'd done one other cooking competition show before, after Top Chef. And it's just like it ebbs and flows. And then this fall, it was weirdly like, I got asked to do like 3 shows in like 3 months. And so I was like, okay, that made sense. It worked with the time and went and did them, So it's for me, it's just kind of like, if it works when it works, then it works. You know what I mean? My main passion is not doing TV. It's, I love restaurants. Like that's my jam, in any way, shape, or form that I can be a part of them. And so at the end of the day, if somebody told me like you can never do another TV show ever again, I could live with that. But if somebody told me like you could never spend another minute in a restaurant working in any capacity ever again, I'd be like, there's just no way. You know what I mean? There's no amount of, TV or anything that would be able to fill that void for me. Like that's, that's my jam at the end of the day. So I like it as a means to draw attention to the restaurants, put butts in seats. But like really, for me, it's like that's, the main goal is always the restaurants.
Well, it's interesting because, and again, you can be a great chef and not do media, not do cooking competitions, TV, anything like that. But it has become a part of the job for so many chefs. And Joe, you had a quote on one of the early episodes. You said, "This isn't really what we do. We spend our whole lives doing this one thing, which is cooking, and then they're like, okay, go do something else." What has it been for you guys developing more as media personalities? I mean, you're used to working in kitchens behind the scenes where, your name might be on the menu, it might not be. And to have to come out and develop who you are, on a national stage, what has that been like for you guys over the past 8 to 10 years?
I mean,
It's a loaded question, I know.
not loaded, but it's God, it's hard to explain. I never wanted to be I wanted to be operational. I wanted to be the person behind the big name. I wanted to be the person running Le Bernardin. I wanted to be the person running Marcus Samuelson's operations. I didn't want to be out in front. It was I mean, I was unemployed when Top Chef called, and I was like, "Well, okay, I mean, I literally have nothing else to do. Literally, why not? I have no job. So why not go try this?" And my sister and my mom were big fans of Top Chef. So they were like, go do it. And what I realized after that is that it's not necessarily for you. This was a time where you still weren't seeing a ton of women in kitchens, in restaurants. You weren't seeing a lot of Black women in restaurants, in kitchens. And if you did, it was kind of stereotyped, like, oh, you work in a soul food restaurant or you only do this type of food. It was like, no, I ran a 3 Michelin star restaurant kitchen for a while and like put dishes on the menu. So like, thank you. And so what I realized after that is it's not for you. And I kind of had to start getting comfortable with that. Like, I'm very it definitely helped me break out of my shell. Let's put it that way, because that was not something I ever thought I would be comfortable doing. It wasn't something I wanted to do. I'm guarded around my family. And so being like out in front of people, it's like you just kind of fake it and pretend like you're comfortable until you actually start to feel comfortable. And the value that you get from like, I'll go do a talk at an elementary school with kids who are interested in going into the culinary arts. And they're like, oh my God, it's so cool to see a woman chef, or it's so cool to see somebody who looks like me. And that's when you realize it's not about you and how you feel insecure going on television. It's about giving representation to other people, guys from the south side of Chicago who think, oh, I couldn't cut it in a high-end kitchen. Joe ran a Michelin's, Italian restaurant in Chicago. He scaled that, and people coming from where we come from don't always feel like we can ascend to those heights in whatever industry it is that we choose. So I feel like 2 kids from the south side of Chicago who made it in their respective fields, in their industries, in their restaurant, is like, just show, hopefully it provides some kind of comfort or motivation to somebody else coming from where we come from.
Yeah, and I think
and that was a loaded answer.
No, I think it was a really, really good answer. And I think, the interesting thing about the question too is like now, like people are so much more aware of like Top Chef and all these cooking shows, and these chefs show up and they're like, they're ready to have a brand, they're ready to have merch, they're ready to have all these things, and and I think some of them are really, really good at it. You know what I mean? They have a brand, and like they're from their social media pages to everything looks, away, everything, all the squares do like cool stuff and like whatever. And they're really good at it. They're really good. And that's part of it. Like they are. I don't think I'm particularly good at that because I don't particularly like want to do that. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
part of
it's
your
like,
personality.
It's just kind of like whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, I think about more of like the brand of the restaurants and like this restaurant, like this, and it has to have its own unique voice. And like, I obsess about that, So then when it comes to me, it's just like, well, I'm just like this person that's just kind of like whatever. And it's just, you know what I mean? But I don't think about like that brand as much. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh, like this social media needs to look like this or whatever. It's just like chaotic. I mean, it looks like me because it is. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Pure
it's
chaos.
It's just like chaos and ADD. Like that's the mixture of like, if you looked at my social media account, you'd be like, oh, okay, this guy like obviously, you know what I mean, can't sit still. And you know what I mean, like lives a fairly chaotic life. And so it's a good representation of who I am, but not maybe like the cleanest brand if you were just like trying to promote me as a brand, for better or worse.
One of my favorite parts of the show is when you guys bring out the walk-in confessions and people get to tell stories, from their past of maybe mistakes they made or crazy situations they found themselves in. But I want to hear one not from a kitchen. I want to hear a podcast walk-in confession. What's something that happened on the podcast or happened, off the mics or something, a story that you guys haven't told about this show and how it came together?
Ooh.
I think,
Dan.
I think probably the best one, Age, is so the first episode we recorded, was that the one with Steph at Boulevard?
That was,
or was that like the
our
third
first
one?
Live.
It was the first live one.
Episode was actually Kristen Kish. We did a solo, and then we did Kristen Kish, and then we had, because I was listening to the Kristen Kish episode to edit when I got to Chicago for James Beard Awards that year. So
we did this live one with Stephanie Izzard at my steakhouse, Boulevard, and it's Boulevard has this beautiful patio, right? It's like 100-seat patio. It's covered. It's gorgeous. So it was the three of us out there live. We had never done a live podcast before. We're setting this all up for the first time. Like Adrienne just literally like packed all the stuff up from New York, flew in with Steven. We're going to go. We're like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. One of our producer met us there. With the soundboard. We had like a legit setup. I was so proud of us. It was so professional. It looked perfect. Now, the only issue you may not know, Dan, about the location of Boulevard Steakhouse is it's at Lake and Green, which might not mean much to you, but to anyone in Chicago knows, the other thing at Lake and Green is the L train.
Yep, and right up here.
Right there. And it just rips through, just, you know what I mean? Like, there's no escaping it. So Sean, our producer, who's incredible and is amazing, chopped together that episode, and it sounds really good and really smooth and really flawless. But if you were sitting in that room, it would be like, so Steph, why don't you?
Right, everybody had to pause. And Jorge,
why don't you tell us about, and it was like every, we're like, it's a Sunday, it won't be that bad with the trades. And the CTA was like, no, that, we're running overtime today.
Right. We're sending extra trains by.
Right. They were just, they were doing flybys on us, I swear. And it was so funny. So it was just crazy of chopping it up. But we kind of leaned into it, and that was cool because Jorge, the sound guy, whatever magic he worked on the soundboard, and then Sean in the editing,
he minimized the sound from on site. So in the recording, it wasn't that bad, but we just kind of leaned into it. Steven was like, how about we just tell people to do a drinking game? Like, take a sip anytime you hear the train pass. So while we're doing the episode with Stephanie and people had to pause to talk while we're doing this live recording, everybody was like, okay, I'll just chug a few sips of beer.
Take a drink. So it was like one of those ones where it's like in edit and it looks really smooth, but it's like it took forever, and there's like probably 30 stops in there of just the L train ripping by, and it was just like it was really funny. And luckily, Adrienne and Steph are both two people who could always just roll with it. And so it was really fun, but it was like one of those ones at the beginning of it. I was like, this might be like we might have like 45 unusable minutes of just trades.
Well, it turned out great, and I'm hoping that there weren't just tables of passed out people. Just totally hammered. Everybody got home safe.
They were fine.
Oh, yeah. Everybody takes a cab around there.
Okay. So we are this has been so amazing. I can't even believe we've been talking for almost an hour now. There are so many more questions that I had prepared. So many questions there's so many things I wanted to talk to you guys about. I do need to respect your time. I got 2 more quick hitters that I would love to get your opinions on. I love to ask just about every chef I have on this podcast. I ask these questions, but I would love to get you guys' perspective, just from more of a national perspective, honestly. What is one thing that you feel that restaurant guests don't understand about the restaurant industry that you wish they did understand?
So much. So many things.
Oh,
Joe,
man.
you look like your wheels are turning.
It's hard. You know what it's like? I know we say it all the time, but like that, it's really hard. Like restaurants are just hard, and it's a lot of people, and there's a lot of variables, and like people are doing their best. You know what I mean? And it's like people have bad days. Like you have bad days at your job. People at restaurants have bad days at their job. And I think just, you know what I mean? Like give people some grace. And it's like, if something's wrong, let people know. Like I wish just people would be like, man, if you're not having a good time, like let people know while you're there. Let me do something about it. Give me the opportunity. That's the biggest thing. It's like if something's going wrong, give me the opportunity to make it right before you leave. Before you go post on, whatever, your review of like what you're upset about, like give me a chance. Give me a chance to figure it out. And like, hey, if it's not for you, it's not for you. That's okay. Every restaurant can't be for every person. But if something's off, something's weird, like if you say something, like there's a good chance we could try to fix it. We could try to make it right. And I think like that's the thing I wish people would just do more. And I know it's like awkward and people don't want to but it's like, it's just like have a conversation with the people there. The more you talk to the people at a restaurant, the better your experience is going to be. The more questions you ask, the more, like you understand what they're trying to do, the better you're going to experience that place.
And people aren't mind readers. So, how is one waiter supposed to know that the host was having a really bad day and was kind of rude to you in the beginning if you don't say anything? Or how is the kitchen supposed to know that this waiter is having an off day and, is fumbling the ball out there? So if you tell somebody what's going on, like Joe said, the problem can get fixed. It can get addressed. They can step in and make sure that you have a great experience. And another thing that I wish people realize is that yes, we work in the service industry and our job and what we want to do is make sure that everybody has a great time, but we don't work for you. Like there's a certain way that I see people I can't even call them friends, but I've been out to eat with people who are nice, normal, respectful people in every instance of their life. But then when they get to a restaurant, they feel like,
they're crazy.
Work for me? And that is something that it riles me to no end. I will never be friends with that person again. We will never go out again. Because if you treat people who work in the service industry like a little too disrespectfully or like they work for you, it's like this is not your forum to be king or queen for a couple of hours. Like these people are working. Yes, they want to give you a good experience, but they don't work directly for you. So that's something that I wish It doesn't happen a lot. I'm not saying it happens a ton, but it does happen. People put on this little demeanor sometimes in restaurants.
I have one other quick one too for you that's a little bit lighter.
Go.
Line cooks and 7-year-olds are basically the same thing. So if you ever want to be really nice to line cooks, just do something that like 7-year-olds would super like. Like if you show up with like a box of Uncrustables and like candy and like Gatorades, like
Welch's fruit
like
snacks.
yeah, like if you treat it like it's a soccer game and you're in charge of snacks and you like show up and drop that off for the line cooks at your local restaurant, they will be amped.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you have a great meal, you want to do something nice, well, drop them off a treat. They'll love it. They'll freak out. It's awesome. I love it.
I always love restaurants that have at the bottom of the menu, you can like buy the kitchen a 6-pack for $10 or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Forget that. Just bring them a giant bag of Tootsie Pops.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to go.
It's usually the chewy gummy candy, I feel like, is the preferred candy in most kitchens.
Yeah.
You know,
Candy.
My
Sour
sister
Patch
would send
Kids.
that large 200-something pack of individual Welch's fruit snacks. Love it. Love it.
Or I'd
It would
send
last
people,
2
I
services.
would DoorDash them bags of pizza rolls so I could just drop them in the fryer at the end of the night for a little late night treat.
That is
You
a
can cook a
baller
pizza
move
roll
right
in a
there.
deep fryer in about 1:30 seconds.
Ah, I
Sounds
love that.
wonderful.
They're fantastic.
All
Shout
right,
out to
last
Tocinos.
thing, and then I'll get you guys out of here. Favorite part about being a part of the restaurant industry or just cooking industry in general? Because Adrienne, I shouldn't frame it this way. You're not in a restaurant right now, yet you do very significant work when it comes to cooking. So just being a part of the food industry in general.
2 things for me. One is getting to know food. Like the same ingredient can be different from day to day. So the more you pay attention, you get to see how different and beautiful and cool and how much it changes and how every little thing you do can make a big difference with the final outcome of that dish. But the biggest thing I think is the people who work in the hospitality and restaurant industry. It's by far the people. I was doing a dinner at a restaurant in Brooklyn night before last, and just being back in a kitchen with the group there, like, it's just, there's nothing, we're just this merry band of weirdos, and it's just the best thing ever.
Yeah, Age said it. It's the people, no doubt. The feeling of sharing a line with someone, sharing a kitchen with someone is, I think, one of the most special things you could do, whether it's in your own house, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in somebody else's house. But like getting to share space cooking with somebody is one of my favorite things. And that doesn't matter if it's a professional level, if it's a personal level, if it's, me and my kids making eggs to, me and Adrienne, if we were making sandwiches together, it wouldn't matter. There is a flow to it. There's a beauty to it. I do a camping trip every year with a bunch of buddies, and it's like, and I make the one lunch on Saturday, and it's like me and a crew. We're called the Beef Boys, but it's me and the Beef Boys on Saturday. We make Italian beefs for all the kids, and we have Italian beefs on the beach because we're from Chicago. That seems like a reasonable thing to do.
Totally,
but
beef
it's
food.
like,
yeah.
But it's like just we're in the woods on flat tops making 200 Italian beefs. And it's like, it's one of my favorite services of the year. And it's like, that's the stuff I love, man. That's the stuff where it's like you take something that could be stressful for people and you make them fall in love with the fun aspect of it, the push. And I think personal, professional, wherever you're doing that, you get people to fall in love with the push of cooking. Like there's very few better feelings than that.
That's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that. And thank you for all that you've done with this podcast. I know for you, it might seem like you're just two friends who are chopping it up, and that's great that that's your experience. But like for me, you've not only given me endless hours of entertainment, but you have made me a better diner. You've made me more understanding of what goes on in kitchens, and you've made me better professionally doing what I do in this. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking an hour to come on the podcast. Some random dude in Omaha just shot his shot and messaged the Instagram account for your show, and I got a chance to actually talk to you guys and meet you guys. Thank you so much, Joe.
We're all just random people, Dan. We're all just random people shooting our shot. That's what we are.
That's it. That's it, man. That's it.
Thank you so much for having us, Dan. It was so great talking to you, and thank you so much for the support and listening to the pod. I love that.
Yeah. Everybody, if you're listening to this show, you need to listen to the Chef's Guide. Like, there's absolutely no question whatsoever. Stop listening to this. Listen to their show first, and then if you still need more food stuff, you can come back to me. Joe and Adrienne, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.